Let's get honest for a second, gardener to gardener. Composting has become the holy grail of soil health, the one thing every gardening book, blog, and influencer insists you must do. We're told to pile, flip, and baby our scraps until they turn into black gold. And yes, compost is useful, but here's the uncomfortable truth most gardeners eventually learn: compost is overrated. Now before you clutch your compost fork, hear me out. I'm not saying compost doesn't work, it absolutely does, but nature has a far better, easier, and more powerful system that doesn't require all that effort, waiting, and hauling. It's time we stop mimicking industrial waste management in our backyards and start working with the soil, not on it. Welcome to the real secret of soil power, the system nature's been perfecting for millions of years. When most gardeners start composting, it feels like the right thing to do. We collect kitchen scraps, yard clippings, and leaves, then pile them high to create humus. But what we don't realize is that composting is an artificial shortcut to something the earth already does better: decomposition. You know, in nature there are no compost bins, no turning piles, no brown to green ratios. Leaves fall, plants die, animals deposit waste, and the soil organisms just take it from there. Everything breaks down right where it lands, in layers, feeding the microbes and worms in place. When we compost separately, we interrupt that cycle. We remove organic matter from where it should be, the soil surface, and isolate it elsewhere. Then, when it's finally done, we bring it back and spread it out. It works, sure, but it's labor-intensive, time-consuming, and ironically, far less efficient than what nature already does without our help. Let's dig deeper. Compost piles are great in theory, but they often come with hidden downsides that most gardeners overlook. First, nutrient loss. When organic matter decomposes in a pile, heat and gas escape, including precious nitrogen and carbon dioxide. That means the finished compost is often less nutrient-dense than the original materials. It's still beneficial, but not the superfood it's marketed as. Second, soil disconnection. Composting moves organic matter away from the soil food web, the living system of fungi, bacteria, and invertebrates that depend on constant feeding. When you pile organic matter somewhere else, you're cutting off that steady flow of nutrients. The soil waits, hungry, while your compost cooks in isolation. And third, effort versus return. You spend months layering, watering, turning, and waiting for a small pile that barely covers your garden beds. It's a lot of energy for little yield, especially when you could be letting nature compost for you in real time. Here's where things get exciting. Nature's system is called surface decomposition, and it's the foundation of all fertile ecosystems on Earth. Instead of collecting and processing organic matter elsewhere, nature lets everything break down exactly where it falls. Think of a forest floor. Layers of leaves, twigs, and fallen flowers form a natural mulch that feeds billions of microbes underneath. Fungi spread their mycelial threads through decaying matter, breaking it into minerals and humus right at the root zone. Earthworms drag bits of organic material underground, mixing it with soil and enriching the structure. This process is continuous, effortless, and perfectly balanced. No piles, no tools, no waiting, just natural, ongoing fertility. When we bring this principle into our gardens, we're not just skipping compost, we're activating the soil's own composting engine. The beauty of this system is its simplicity. You don't need fancy tools or complex recipes, you just need to start feeding your soil directly. Here's how. Whenever you prune plants, harvest crops, or clear dead leaves, just leave that organic matter right on the soil surface. You can chop it into smaller pieces if you like, and simply let it fall. This really mimics the natural leaf litter process. Add kitchen scraps, coffee grounds, eggshells, and other biodegradable materials directly to your garden beds instead of carting them to a pile. Cover them lightly with leaves, straw, or spent plant material to prevent pests and odors. Over time, the soil organisms will do the rest. Worms will pull organic matter down and fungi will digest the carbon. Microbes will mineralize nutrients, making all those good things available for your plants. What you'll get is a living mulch that keeps your soil constantly fed and protected, just working for you all the time. You can enhance this process by integrating green mulch plants like clover or buckwheat. These guys, they act like living compost factories in your garden. These act as living compost factories, adding organic matter continuously through their roots and fallen leaves. The result? You'll see a visible difference: darker soil, better moisture retention, richer texture, and stronger plants. What makes surface decomposition so powerful is the soil food web. This invisible community of organisms, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, nematodes, and more, work together to process organic matter faster and more efficiently than any compost pile ever could. It's truly amazing how these tiny creatures collaborate to create such a big impact. Fungi act as the long-distance haulers, breaking down tough materials like lignin and cellulose. Meanwhile, bacteria handle the softer stuff, converting sugars and proteins into nutrients. It's a fascinating system of teamwork that ensures everything gets broken down properly. Then larger creatures like nematodes, mites, and earthworms consume them, cycling nutrients up the chain and creating structure in the soil. It's incredible how these processes build the very foundation of the soil, supporting life above ground. The key difference between compost piles and living soil is, connection. In compost piles, decomposition happens in isolation, but in living soil, it's an ongoing conversation between organisms and roots. Plants release exudates, those sugary compounds that feed microbes, and in return, microbes deliver nutrients directly to the plants. This creates a self-sustaining, regenerative loop that no human-managed compost pile can replicate. Whether you're a beginner or an experienced grower, letting nature compost in place saves time, effort, and resources. You no longer need to flip piles, measure temperatures, or wait months for finished compost. Your garden becomes a living system that constantly renews itself. Even if you only garden in containers, you can totally apply this approach by layering organic material and letting it break down naturally. The results really speak for themselves: improved soil texture, thriving earthworm populations, fewer weeds, and crops that are noticeably healthier and honestly more resilient. And the best part, you're not just feeding your plants, you're rebuilding the living foundation that supports them. Some gardeners worry that this method might attract pests or even slow down decomposition, but let me tell you, in reality, when organic matter is thinly spread and covered with leaves or mulch, it actually breaks down smoothly without any issues. It's quite amazing, really. Now, others might think they need to see compost to believe it's working. But the true transformation, it happens underground. It's all about better structure, deeper roots, and soil that, believe it or not, smells alive. You might not end up with a neat pile of crumbly compost, but your soil will become the compost. As gardeners, it's time we rethink what feeding the soil really means. Composting was a great step towards sustainability, but it's still human-managed. When we let organic matter decompose naturally, we stop fighting against nature and start aligning with it. We reduce waste, save time, and allow soil life to flourish without interruption. Once you see how effortlessly your soil transforms with this method, you'll never look at compost bins the same way again. You know, I've been gardening for years, and I can tell you firsthand, the best compost I ever made wasn't in a pile, it was right there in my soil. Trust me, when you let nature do its thing, the results can be pretty amazing. When I stopped trying to control the process and started trusting nature, my garden, well, it just exploded with life. You don't need fancy systems or bins, you need patience, trust, and the courage to let go of the rules. Nature knows what she's doing. So this season, skip the pile, feed your soil directly, watch the transformation happen from the ground up. If this article opened your eyes to a better way to garden, do me a favor, subscribe to Soil Power, share this with your gardening friends, and let's spread the truth. Compost is good, but nature's system is genius.